You are listening to SPN, the Sports Podcasting Network. And welcome to Soccer Today. No intro, Duane. Duane, it's morning. And case of the Mondays for our video player. How you doing today?
It's good. I always am prepared for the intro to sometimes not be there. We'll get it on there in the in post. But
Yeah.
Kevin, happy belated Canada Day. Happy belated happy early July 4th, I guess. Saint Jean Baptiste Day was passed. I forgot to wish you happy whatever the hell I'm supposed to wish you there, Kevin. But whatever.
Hey, and it's a weird timing between Canada Day and 4th of July, tomorrow, Independence Day. So I guess it's Happy North American Weekend.
Yeah, exactly. And this will be we will be taking tomorrow off. A bit of a coincidence is that we have some other stuff going on, but we figured that we deserve a bit of a break too for the dual holidays or tri-holidays, because Kevin is from Quebec, and there's a national holiday there too. So lots of stuff to celebrate. We'll celebrate that tomorrow. We'll take a bit of a day off, but today we're going to get in one in today to make sure we have a Canadian review and to talk about the news of the weekend, which includes, of course, the Confederations Cup and Ronaldo news and John Terry, and there's lots of stuff to talk about today.
Yep, and as international soccer goes, Duane, well, it went to chalk. Germany kind of dominates the world of soccer, especially in Europe, and in the Confederations Cup. They won the U21 UEFA Euro Championship, and they won the Confederations Cup with a kind of a U23 theme yesterday.
Exactly. What's the definition of a football tournament is when 22 men in short pants chase a ball for a determined amount of time, and in the end, Germany wins.
Well, usually it's in penalties, but this time around it wasn't the case.
Yes, exactly. Well, I don't know how much more we'll break that back down at the end, but let's jump over to the other side of the pond right now and talk about Major League Soccer. And we'll start, I guess, maybe with Toronto's loss 3-1 to Dallas. A bit of a look. It's a strange game, that one, Kevin, in the sense that that I didn't think Toronto looked terrible in it, considering all of the fill-ins and everything else. But obviously, because they lost 3-1 to a very, very good Dallas team on the road with missing players, the sky is falling amongst a certain fan base of TFC. That's the amazing thing about fans everywhere. It's not just TFC, of course, is how quickly they can forget. John Molinaro had a particularly spectacular comment in his comment section where they were calling for TFC to get more defensive help. This despite the fact that, as we talked about on Friday, that they are amongst the best defensive record teams in the league, that they needed more defensive help, and they should get so, Kevin, by trading Sebastian Giovinco.
Yeah, trade Carey Price. Trade Austin Matthews. Trade Sebastian Giovinco. Get better defensively. Come on. Both ways. It goes both sides of the puck, both sides of the ball.
Yeah, Jesus. I mean, where do you even go with that? Of course, you can't even go anywhere with that. That's just, it is defined. But nonetheless, no, we're not going to trade Sebastian Giovinco. I thought, Kevin, as I said a minute ago, that there were actually some signs in that game that were pretty reassuring. And had TFC, maybe gone into that game in different circumstances, maybe it's a different result. Dallas is a very tough place to play. I believe they've only won once down there or something all time. It happened to be a very famous game in the CCL. But nonetheless, it's not a very easy place to go into because of the heat, because of it's not a direct flight down there too. Like, it's tough to get to Dallas from Toronto. I think you have to fly through Chicago usually. It's just not an easy place to go. And as I said, Dallas is a very good team. They were getting killed in the break. Tactically speaking, and this is the one place of criticism that I will place on this game, I thought Ashton Morgan had a bit of a howler, which is to be understood because this guy doesn't play very much anymore, and to get thrown in against what is arguably along with Toronto the most talented team in the league, it was a tough ask anyway, and they were just getting killed on the break in that game in the first half before they adjusted and sort of tightened things up a little bit. And I thought maybe Vanny might have been a little too slow to react to the fact that they were getting burnt. They were particularly getting burnt down that flank that Morgan was on. I thought maybe it might have been a time to go away from the wingback system because you're on the road, play it a little more conservative, try and get out of there like they did in Seattle a couple months ago when they got that 1-0 win there. I thought that might have been the approach to go. But alas, He stuck with what had got them here so far. It was a 3-1 loss, only their third in the season, unfortunately. And we'll talk about Vancouver's inability to do the one thing that they needed to do this weekend in a minute. That does put Chicago, right there on TFC's heels again. So there you go, Kevin. I know it was hard for us. This is the unfortunate thing. It was on Canada Day, of course, this game, and all three Canadian teams played at the exact same time, meaning that it was hard to watch more than one game at once.
Here you go, Canadian soccer fans. No, you cannot spend the entire day to watch all Canadian teams. No, you have to pick and choose, or picture in picture in picture.
Yes.
Can you imagine the size of that third screen? A little thumbnail.
Wouldn't be very. Yeah. Well, I guess you could watch one on your phone and then have picture in picture. Does anyone watch picture in picture anymore? Like that seems like technology that's way outdated now.
Seems like 2003 technology now. We all can manage two screens, right? We all pretty much either have our TV and our laptop as our premier, our number one screen, and screen number two usually is our tablet or our phone. When it comes out to third screen, that's where it can get complicated for some people. And so either the Vancouver, the Montreal, or the Toronto game was on watch, but I have to say it was an entertaining game at Satsupito as well last Saturday.
Yeah, look, this is the one that I had to sacrifice on mine, and they were all on TSN, and we had in the bar, we had one screen on the Vancouver game, which was actually an accident. We just didn't ask them to turn it. Once we figured it out, it was on. Figured we'd keep an eye on that. It wasn't much to keep an eye on very quickly, but nonetheless, the Montreal game was the one that I didn't see, and that of course was the team that did actually have a good result. After the game, people saying that they didn't think Montreal is the worst team in the East. I think we agree with that, Kevin. But what was your take on the overall game, the one that I didn't see? So I'm going to have to lean on you on this one.
Well, it's a case of Blair and Zamali carrying the team. It was literally the case due to injuries, due to Gold Cup as well. You have Patrice Bernier and Anthony Jackson gone to the World Cup training camp for now. And you have as well Nacho Piatti's injury, a few weeks. It's a few weeks. All signs point to a groin injury, and it should be out a few weeks. Beloutabla was replacing Nacho Piatti, and even Beloutabla is not 100% from his ankle injury as well. So there's that aspect, but Blair and Zamali, Duane, this player is something special. I don't know what was DC thinking. I don't know if they were thinking, but leaving so much space to Blair and Zamali 25 yards out. You can see him sets himself up perfectly, waiting for the defenders to be at the exact right perfect angle so he can shoot between the two, and one of them was kind of blocking the vision of Wara, the goalkeeper for DC United, and he didn't see it coming. Top net, top corner, left, just rubbing off the post just for a good measure, and it's 1-0 Montreal. And that type of cracker of a goal puts you on your back heel, right? Put you on your heels as defenders, all right, I'm not going to let him do that again. So when he steps up 2 minutes later to trying to shoot, they're all like, no, we're not. And he loves it past perfectly to Chris Duval. That was perfect psychology, soccer psychology. Blair Zamali was thinking, you know what? You guys are scared now. You're scared of my right foot. You're scared when I'm at 25-yard line. I'm going to fake shoot and lob it to the guy who's going to be open and make it 2-0.
Precisely. And look, DC is not a very good team.
They're terrible. They're terrible. Yeah. Come on, let's be honest here. No offense to Ben Olsen and DC United, but on paper, this team should be better.
Yeah. Well, Montreal, you mean?
Well, DC United too. When you look at the names, and yeah, maybe it's a few years away from the names being a household name in Major League Soccer, but I don't know. I don't see them as 11th either. But I don't know. It's Chicago's close to first, so
they can't score. They can't score, right?
12 goals in 18 games. 12 goals in 18 games. That's 0.8 goals per game. That's crazy.
Yeah, no, it's I think that again, we said it many times before. The old adage of defense wins championships, a load of crap in soccer. It's when the goals are at a premium. If you can't score, you're not going to win. And DC just they just can't create any offense. And Ben Olsen's got to be in trouble soon. You would have to think. Then again, maybe part of the problem is that they're complacent there, that they're willing to sort of just let things be, and they're not going to necessarily rock the boat, and they're certainly not going to spend big, and that's they're kind of MLS 1.0 in a lot of ways. And
we've seen this happen before, right? Buzzard's Point is coming. The new stadium is coming, so they're kind of in a holding pattern until that happens. What's the point, Duane, of spending hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars on a big name DP right now when you have to make people come to RFK and they might not come back after one experience in RFK. It's that terrible of a stadium right now. Might be in a holding pattern until the next stadium opens. Make a big bang, gets a big name. Maybe then you get the coach with a name too. Maybe then Bob Bradley makes a comeback and he goes with DC. Maybe DC United's in a holding pattern. Status quo is okay for now, waiting for that new stadium to open.
Got to be careful though. That's a pretty busy sports market there, and you look at their teams in the other sports, and they're all kind of on an upswing. Although we'll see what the Capitals do this year if they're going to have to dump some salary. But nonetheless, you have a team that's won.
They already dumped one actually signed in my neck of the woods, but that's something else.
Yeah, no, it's going to be they're going to be okay, but that's for the hockey podcast that we're never ever going to do because I don't have enough time.
That's the hockey podcast that we don't have. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's also, is it ironic that the Canadian Podcasting Network doesn't have a hockey podcast? Is that irony? I don't know.
Oh, like when you kind of know who's involved with the podcast, we're all like a bit contrarian here, so it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, if anyone out there wants to do a podcast for us on hockey, we'd be more than happy to host you, probably. But you're gonna have to do it. We're not doing it at any rate. No one wants to listen to my hockey opinions anyway. Like, really, they don't. Do you want me to just talk about the early 1990s Belleville Bulls for an hour a day? Would that be a podcast?
Or talk about Al Freddy in the early 90s with the Washington Capitals?
Yeah, it would be kind of a broken record after a while.
Mike McPhee's mustache.
Exactly. There you go. Be fun times. All right, moving on from that. Look, no, in terms of Montreal, I do agree that they're probably, this result doesn't necessarily prove much beyond the fact that they can beat the worst team, and it does show that they're not the worst team, I think. But none.
What I think it shows, Wayne, is the game against DC United was a good timing. Montreal needed a result. Montreal needed a quick turnaround, and it was a difficult week, and it was admitted by the coach and the players with the defeat in Toronto, the quick turnaround as well, the amount of games. And the emotional type of defeat late and the way it happened with the red card and everything surrounding that aspect of the call and the non-calls and the late stoppage time goal on Tuesday, Montreal needed a big result. And that's why Blair Zamali was happy. That's what he said post-game. And you can listen to the French interview on Sur la Transversale, which is the new French version of Off the Woodwork. So if you are a French speaking, if you're a francophone, you can go to sportspodcastingnetwork.com and find my post-game show with Blair Zamali talking about in French how he was happy with this result, not because he scored a goal and an assist, but because it's a win. They needed a win. Nobody's happy with the beginning of the season. And that's what I'm glad that they talked about. Like Blair Zamali, which was not the captain per se, Asun Kamara was a captain, but the leader of men on Saturday was Blair Zamali. And he mentioned, which really made me happy that he thinks this way, because I think it bodes well for the future of Montreal when you have players that are focused on results and turning things around, and they're not happy with their position in the standings, and they want this to change. And the first thing he said is like, look, I'm happy because it's a win. I'm happy because we need a win. We're not happy where we are in the standings. We're not happy with the results we're getting so far. We think we're better than this, and it's time we show it. And I was kind of happy to hear Zamali speak that way.
Fair enough. All right, we should talk about the Whitecaps very briefly, and I think Whitecaps fans will appreciate a brief conversation. That was not a very good effort by the Whitecaps.
the amount of Vancouver fans on my timeline that turned off the game and enjoyed the nice summer evening outdoors, I think you can count it over the 50% mark.
Yeah, look, I mean, Chicago's having a good season. The injury to Schweinsteiger, we'll see how long that and how serious that is. Chicago is a team that is coming into its own. Whether or not they can keep this up or not, we'll have to see. Certainly, they now have that advantage over Toronto. We're looking at that the August sort of showdown in Chicago between them. I know that there is actually a planned trip from Toronto for the Toronto fans to go down to that one. It is the third shortest trip for TFC fans, believe it or not. So there will be some fans there. But yeah, I don't know what to say about this one. The Whitecaps, I was about to call them the Canucks. We had hockey in the brain today. The Whitecaps are kind of they're up and down. Although they're inconsistent, and that must be infuriating for a Whitecaps fan. But they were mostly down on the day against the Fire, and the Fire are red hot. So well, as fires are apt to do, they're red hot, but sometimes fires burn out too. So we'll see how that one goes.
Yeah, you want to make sure they don't fizzle out. You want to make sure nobody comes in to extinguish them.
Yeah, sometimes you put a little too much kindling on early on, it can blow up and look really, really fierce. But then when the kindling burns off,
Hey, and you know what happens, right? When you fight fire with fire. So it's yeah, exactly.
all right.
How long can we? How long can we put? How long can we push this? Like, how many more puns do you have? Like,
think about right about now is how far we can push it. Okay, let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll wrap up with some general combo.
You are listening to Soccer Today, live on SPN Radio. Visit sportspodcastingnetwork.com for more.
Hello.
And
Kevin, let's talk about. There's an interesting article I saw today about San Francisco and the possibility of them starting a USL. Well, they have a PDL team right there now, as along with the NASL team right now, and the owners of the PDL side want to basically start a franchise in 2019. Now, of course, the Deltas already exist. So what the hell is this with all these cities? They're fairly major metros that we're talking about here, deciding that there's room for two teams after years of having none. Kevin, what is that all about?
Well, there's many theories that we can say. There's many smoke screens. There are many it's just for the good of the game. Well, it's the battle continues, right?
Mm-hmm.
The establishment of NASL versus the establishment of USL, even though like around 2000 was last offseason and both league are Division 2. You got the NASL in a way who doesn't want to give up. They want to continue to grow. They want to continue to be successful. And you have teams like Deltas, which are having a great beginning of the season. They're contenders still now for the spring season title. Miami's having an amazing season, probably the favorite for the spring title. But you have the USL wants to continue to grow, continue to establish its footprint in places where it's not right now. And if you're looking at Northern California, they're Orange City Blues, but that's Southern California. They could be beneficial with their presence up there. There's some like there's Sacramento already there. You can have a direct rivalry, and with the Reno, you almost have like a 3-team rivalry. You can almost make like a KT Cup type tournament. So there is some quote unquote makes sense. Like those ideas make sense. And it'll be interesting. It'll become another soccer wars, quote unquote, battleground.
Yeah, the soccer wars. Look, the first thing I read this is the article is very interesting. You can find it on Reddit there. Maybe we'll tweet it out later if I have a second. I'll get it on my main account on 24th Minute. But look, the owner of this PDL team, the stuff that he's talking about the Deltas, it's like it gets into the soccer war stuff. It's catty almost. He's talking about how he thinks that they don't know how to market to the area, that he doesn't want to lose millions of dollars a year like the Deltas are doing. He's saying it's great that they're signing these foreign players, but I want to really focus on the local community here. I much prefer the USL model over the NASL model. And this is part is where I kind of sort of shake my head and wonder whether or not we're ever going to get a resolution here. I think last year, even on the show, we talked a few times about how that they probably end up merging at one point. And I still think that would be the sensible thing for the NASL to do in this case. But then you see stuff like Miami and even the Deltas to a certain point, and the money that they spend and their willingness to lose some money to invest to gain a foothold and to be a top level team. And you think, well, as long as there's someone out there that doesn't like the shared model, the communal model, the whatever model you want to call the MLS USL model, then there might always be a room for this sort of outlaw league that is the NASL, and they kind of like that cowboy factor. Now, the problem and the determining factor that's going to mean whether they sink or swim here, I think, is whether there's enough of these guys out there. You can't have a 3-team league or something, right? If say Edmonton decides to go to the Canadian Premier League, because that would be the sensible thing for them to do money-wise and just even competitive-wise. You look at their inability to sort of keep up right now. then they're down another team. Puerto Rico, how much longer can they last in Puerto Rico with this? If there's a Caribbean league that starts, it would only make sense that they would go to that. There's all sorts of suggestions that some of these teams like Jacksonville, like they're not exactly thriving anymore either. Like there's options for these team players or for these clubs to go elsewhere, to go to the USL and save some money and maybe even get a little bit more of a look at, the bigger dream of MLS. Then some of them are going to go, and eventually you might run out of teams to play, and that might be what eventually kills this one way or the other, Kevin.
That's the same feeling I got a bit reading the article, right? Is that confrontational aspect, which I understand, but the bigger picture is what's best for the game. Like the waste of resources. I know it might seem silly, and billionaires can choose to spend and waste their money however they please. Think of what good could be done, though, with that money. Think of what, if you invested it right in the world of soccer and the development in the academy, and it will give you tenfold return down the run. And I don't think that's what the blueprints are made for right now. It doesn't correlate for the best of the game when you have that wars and the use of resources to battle each other, basically.
Yeah, whenever I see this, I hope that Paul Byrne and other thinkers within the Canadian Premier League startup are looking carefully at both of these models and trying to find the combination that works, that we can get it right. Because I do think there is some validity to some of the criticisms that people have about the meddling of the central meddling from MLS. And we've talked about this all the time with, their shifting rules and how they seem to favor the bigger clubs. And I think even Don Garber's admitted that in the past they might have favored the bigger cities to try and get the league a step up in those markets. I think that we've all seen examples of that. Hell, even in Toronto, they probably gave them a little bit of a help because they were so crap for so long that they needed the help, right? And that's something that does rub people the wrong way, and I do think is something that they need to move away from. So that said, this is North America, and as much as we in the bubble love the sport and want it to thrive and think it is thriving in certain places, it's still the fourth, maybe fifth biggest sport in most markets. It depends on what you consider college sports in the States. I would think that there are markets. We talked about DC a minute ago. It's absolutely probably the fifth biggest team in that market. They're behind all of the major professional teams and probably the colleges in the area, right? So there's a lot of room that they need help for, they need support with. So you hope that when the Canadian Premier League launches, that they're able to both protect the markets and also allow the right level of independence for the ownership so that fans don't feel that the fix is in, because that is the most frustrating thing about Major League Soccer. But in terms of San Francisco, well, that's going to be an awful crowded market if they have a USL team in there. I know that San Jose and San Francisco are different markets to the people that are there, but it's still, relatively close to have an MLS team, an NASL team, and a USL team is an embarrassment of riches to a market that really only had the one just a couple of years ago.
True, right, but it's truly are, especially if you're looking at San Francisco, San Jose are, there are a lot of miles. It's about 20 miles between the two, and it is a very highly densely populated area. So if the niche is found correctly, I do feel there is a place. If they can find a place to play downtown San Francisco or close to the pier, or I think it could be a very successful undertaking. And I think that's where maybe the deltas, and it's not because they didn't try. It's just land comes at a premium, especially San Francisco, and there's not a lot left if you want to build something new, and there's not a lot of soccer infrastructures downtown. So just if you can get that done, I think it could be like an amazing success. Just like example, Pacific Bell Park, where School Giants baseball play is right next to the pier, and it rejuvenated that franchise in that area even more. So I do feel there's possibilities to be something to be done right, but line is so expensive that doesn't really make economical sense to do a stadium like this. But if someone can do it, then it could be a good idea, whatever level it is. I can actually think that a Major League Soccer downtown San Francisco could eventually potentially work too.
I wonder whether they could distinguish itself by locating in Oakland too. But there's, as you said, it's a very dense area. I don't know it as intimately. I know you know it a little better than me, but certainly there's a lot of distinction. My understanding of that market is that people in Oakland don't think of themselves as being from San Francisco, and people in San Francisco certainly don't think of themselves as being from Oakland. That there's a very distinctive culture between those two cities, and then San Jose is a whole different thing altogether. And even though they're very close physically, to most of us that are used to North American distances, they are very far apart when it comes to sort of spiritually and all that sort of stuff. But I would think that might be the way you could distinguish yourself there, is to just set up in the other city and you could have some derbies. But nonetheless, what do I know? All right, a couple other bullet points. The Ronaldo, shocking. He's backing off his "I'm going to leave Real Madrid" conversations. He suggested in a newspaper article in Spanish on the weekend. He's back home tending to his twins, I guess, that he never said he wanted to leave. He only said that he felt disappointed and persecuted by how he was being treated, and that he never distinguishedly said that he wanted to leave. And that's probably because I don't think there's many clubs in the world that can afford Ronaldo at this point.
Yes, and I think there's something to the fact that the president of Real Madrid a few weeks ago, if it's not last week, made a very public statement directly pointed towards the financials, the agency, the revenue agency, that are pinning this on Ronaldo. And he said to them, look, we have to do better. We can't afford to lose him. And how about you work something out and make something work, basically. That's the gist of it. And lo and behold, a week later, Ronaldo is now more vague in the comment that he mentioned that he wanted to leave from his agent. So, don't pay attention to the man behind the curtains, but something probably happened. Probably a phone call, a meeting, a handshake, a understanding that, look, we cannot let Ronaldo leave this club.
Yeah, I should probably do better at understanding the exact taxation stuff. My understanding is it has to do with image rights and things like that, that they're channeling this money offshore, and that therefore the Spanish authorities believe that they're cheating the Spanish people of this taxation. And I know Spain has struggled financially for a while now, and they've really gone after these tax loopholes that they view as that they believe are illegal. So certainly Ronaldo is the latest to get caught up in this, and if something can get worked out, then that's good. I also know that sometimes the way that they talk about this, he could face up to 5 years in jail and stuff like that. But my understanding of the Spanish law, and I remember reading about this and learning about this when Messi was caught in this similar sort of situation, is that the chances of you getting jail time for this are about 0.00001%. Like it just doesn't happen. That's the Spanish system is more lenient in terms of putting people in jail anyway. And this is a non-violent crime, and et cetera, et cetera. They just basically want their money. So if you can work out some kind of payment schedule or something, then this will all probably get resolved. I would be shocked if Cristiano Ronaldo is not playing for Real Madrid at the end of the year. Also shocking is the fact that John Terry will not be wearing Chelsea blue next year. He will instead be wearing Aston Villa championship. John Terry in the championship. Now that's something I didn't think I'd ever see, Kevin.
And he refused a few bigger money offers from Premier League clubs, I think the likes of Bournemouth and a few others, to join Aston Villa. I think John Terry doesn't want to play against Chelsea, and maybe wants to, he's going to figure out that the championship might be a little rougher even for a central defender. But it might not be easy for John Terry next year in the championship.
Well, it's a very physical league, and that was always our concern when, it was my potential hilarity when I thought about it. But the potential of him coming to MLS, that was can he keep up? Can he keep up with the physicality, with the athleticism of MLS? And the championship is pretty close. And if you look at a lot of the successful players that come from England, a lot of them come from the championship because I think the style of play is very, very similar. So I would suggest that this might not be the best signing that Villa has ever made, and that John Terry might be regretting this decision soon. And had the financial situation been a little more stable in China, we're not sure whether these players are getting paid or exactly if the Chinese clubs are meeting the expectations that they were sort of implying. That sort of died pretty fast, This whole China's going to take over stuff that we were talking about last summer. It's kind of faded out a little bit. We don't hear that talk anymore because I think there's been a few more indications out there that the Chinese league might not be all that it's cracked up to be, which we kind of expected. But
it was more for show. And they changed the rules midway too, from being like unlimited to 3, and then that tempered off station. And on the field, there's been some incidents lately, like with foreign players and Chinese players, and like melees and fight. Oscar was involved, Hulk was involved in some. So, and it's not necessarily panning out to be the right experiment right now for the Chinese league and for foreign players going to the Chinese league. Their expectations and the way they are treated are not necessarily up to par to at least what was promised to them.
Yeah, look, I mean, obviously every country has its own unique characteristics and culture and everything else, and in terms of sport that exists as well. It is a big culture shock. I would suggest to go to China, and I am not entirely sure that everyone that decides to take the money to go over there completely considers that aspect of it, and we are starting to see more and more of that moving forward. I think that this whole China threat thing, I mean, the money's always going to be there. There's always going to throw some splash of money around, but we're seeing less and less sort of players linked there as the time goes on. And if John Terry's not going to take that jump, and we all thought that he'd be the one because of, he has some business interests there as well, then perhaps that's telling you that this is still a ways off before it's really truly going to be something that concerns us all. We talked about the Confederations Cup off the top. I don't know. 22 men, short pants, ball. Germany wins. Not much more to say. Portugal gets
Germany wins this summer. Like Germany wins the summer. So
yeah,
is it going to be the same next year?
Are they the favorite? Yeah, that's the question.
Yeah, because if you add the players we're missing to this team, who beats them? Who beats them right now? I don't know.
Spain, perhaps.
Spain is not what it used to be. Look at the retired players from already last failed 2014 World Cup for them. I think Germany has to be the favorite right now.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the French look pretty decent too, but they're kind of hard to predict.
They're reliant though on Griezmann going really, really hot this summer. Well, next summer. That's pretty much what France will need to get to the final game, at least versus Germany or something, depending on the draw too. So, but no, yeah, you're right. But outside of maybe France, maybe a potential contender like Argentina would need to have a tournament of their life to trying to beat Germany, like a solid team. And I don't know. Right now, maybe it's just recency bias because of the 2014 World Cup, because of the performances, right? Like the summer of all levels. So yeah, I don't know. Germany's the outright favorite, like by a long shot right now.
Yeah, well, you look at. Unfortunately, I think that the way you beat Germany is what Chile tried to do in the final, what Portugal did in the Euros last year to win the European Championship, is you have to just defend with your life and hope that, because it's a game with scarcity of goals, right? And sometimes a team can completely dominate a game and still lose it. That's both the beauty and the frustration of this sport to those of us that love it, is that it can be a little unpredictable that way, especially in a short sprint tournament. So there's not an absolute lock that Germany will win the World Cup. I don't think we should think that, but when you certainly look at it, and you look at American sides taking a bit of a step back. Brazil does not seem like anything close to what Brazil was. Argentina, Christ, for a while they were kind of touch and go to even make the tournament. Looks like they're going to be fine now. We watched how Chile played, essentially a B-side Germany team, and still defended for their life and couldn't get it done. It's hard to imagine the South American team stepping up and winning this thing, especially, they don't fare well often in Europe on these tournaments. So there's that. Where else is going to step up? I mean, what the Confederations Cup also sort of illustrated is, as much as things change in terms of the world pecking order, they kind of stay the same. Germany and South America were still standing at the top 3 positions in this thing. The Mexicans, we thought maybe they might be better than they were. They certainly didn't look all that spectacular. We'll see how they do in the Gold Cup with a second choice lineup there. Are they the favorite? We'll talk about that to wrap the week up there. All right. Enough of the Confederations Cup. We'll move on. The European under-21s, as well, as you mentioned, Germany winning those. Everything comes up Germany. Ich bin Duane. All right, Kevin, as I said, we are going to take the 4th off tomorrow to both celebrate, Independence Day in the United States and the belated celebration of Canada Day for us. We'll be back on Wednesday. We're going to be doing our Gold Cup coverage starting on Wednesday. We're looking to book some guests, probably going to preview all 3 of the major, the 2 major teams and Canada.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, well, we are Canadians. We have to get the Canadian preview in there. But yeah, we're going to focus obviously on the United States and Canada, mostly with a little nod towards Mexico as well throughout this tournament. I wouldn't sleep on Costa Rica either in this one either. In fact, I might call them the favorites to me because they look like they have the strongest lineup on paper, but you have to play this tournament. And historically speaking, as we know, only 3 countries have ever won it. That's why we're previewing Canada. They're the 3rd country to have won it 17 years ago. Yee, how time flies. Kevin, before we say goodbye and take a day off to enjoy our holiday.
Well, you can follow Duane on Twitter at 24th Minute and myself at Kev Laramee. You can catch every on-demand version of the shows we do here at the Sports Podcasting Network on our website, sportspodcastingnetwork.com, and on every podcatcher, iTunes, Stitcher, Feedburner, Podbay Player, Podbean, Podcast Addict, and many, many more. Just look for Sports Podcasting Network, or you can always go to our YouTube page and catch live versions, Facebook as well, Twitter. We're everywhere. We're omnipresent. We're very far from being omnipotent, though. And for Duane Rollins, I'm Kevin Laramee. Until next time, have a great soccer. You were listening to SPN, the Sports Podcasting Network. Visit us, sportspodcastingnetwork.com.